Hello Greenbelt community! Welcome to our trail of the month for July. I am Angel Ellers and I'm out here at a really cool part of our Greenbelt trails. It's a junction of the red, blue, yellow, and white trails where we're going to see something really awesome. So we're going to be exploring a really important wetland here in the Greenbelt, and many of you may know it as Buttonbush Swamp. If we were walking from the Nature Center on Rockland Avenue, we would go along the Nature Center trail to the right, and then when you get up to the blue trail, you would make a quick left right when the blue starts to turn left, and it's about a 15-20 minute walk from the Nature Center. It's a nice leisurely stroll. If you wanted to access Buttonbush Swamp a different way, you could come through the blue and white access points near Meisner and Rockland Avenue. And that's just about a 5 to 8 minute walk. So here we are today, our monthly trail of the month, and we are coming up on our friend and environmental educator, Christopher Ricker, and he's going to help us along our trail of the month. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Angel, and hello everyone at home. Again, welcome to Greenbelt at Home Trail of the Month. Today, as Angel mentioned, we will be navigating Buttonbush Swamp in the Lotterette section of the lower Greenbelt. And before we take off, we're just going to go over some basic things that all of you at home should utilize and do while visiting our trails here in the park. So firstly, we're planning ahead and prepared. So I have a small little day pack on with my water bottle, first aid kit, and a rain jacket. Even though it's bright and sunny out, you never know what you're going to come across when you're spending time in the outdoors. So it's better to be prepared so you can enjoy the outdoors. I have some sturdy footwear on, I have a hat, I have an insect repellent shirt, and of course I have my PPE facial mask to make sure that I'm protecting myself and other users to the park when I'm doing it during this time. So we're going to start heading up the trail, and while I'm on the trail you're going to notice that I'm staying in the center of the trail. So I don't want to trample any of the vegetation or important wildlife habitat that exists on either side of the trail. So by staying in the center of the trail, I'm not only protecting the vegetation, I'm also protecting myself from organisms like ticks who love to live in the grasses and vegetation off of this trail. And so again, by staying in the center of the trail, I'm making sure that I'm protecting the ecosystem of the Greenbelt and myself. Because we can only enjoy these 35 miles of trails if we continue to protect them, meaning our wildlife and vegetation neighbors, as well as ourselves. Great, so now that we know how to safely hike up this trail, you can see just how amazing the landscape is around us and how every step you take in the Greenbelt is both a transformative experience for us, but also a transformative experience with the environment around us.
So right now we are walking up the right side of Buttonbush and we are on the white trail. So if you were to continue up the white trail, you would find yourself up around Heyerdahl Ruins. If you were to go to the left at that wayfinder that I showed you guys before, you'd find yourself going around Lotterette Golf Course and Park and eventually up to the multipurpose trail and then around to the Nature Center again, just for some spatial context.
So as we're coming along this section, you'll notice that there's a lot of grasses on either side of the trail. So all of these grasses are actually a non-native invasive species. So we have a lot of stilt grass growing in there, and an awesome little pond hawk dragonfly that's flying around there. So the dragonfly is a native organism here in the Greenbelt, while the stilt grass is invasive and introduced. So you'll notice in a lot of the parks these plants are taking over the forest floor and out-competing a lot of our native plants. So again, that is stilt grass. But once we get through that and we pan to our left, we'll start to see Buttonbush Swamp opening up. And again, this is the Bucks Hollow section of the Greenbelt, which holds a lot of both human history as well as ecological history. But just panning from the left to Buttonbush and then panning across the trail to our opposite side, you can see some really cool just contrast in vegetation, in the overall canopy, in comparison to the other side of the trail, where there's a lot of sunlight coming in. So there you can see there's a big opening in the canopy where that wetlands is, and that allows a lot of sunlight to get into there and to feed and to allow all that wetland vegetation to grow. So when we're up a little further, we can probably see a little more of the vegetation clearer.
Along the trail, we can see various different species of native trees. So we have tulip trees, white oaks, American beech trees. We have quite a few sweet gums. We have some maple trees. We also have lots of spicebush, which is one of the only kind of shrub-sized plants that we're finding out here these days.
So we have a really cool semi-blowdown right here. So we have a tree that, due to winds, due to erosion, maybe due to the presence of this trail in general, this tree is beginning to fall over. It's still, I think there's still some green on it. So it's still alive and it's still retaining the soil, but it's just an example of what goes on in our outdoor spaces, in our ecosystems, because this tree is alive, it's still living, but as eventually it falls down into the wetlands, it'll create additional habitat. So when our trees are alive, they create and provide homes and food for wildlife, and even as they begin to fall down into either the forest floor or into a wetland, they're going to provide a new home for new organisms. So again, nature is resilient, and so are we, and so everything is always flexing and changing as long as we as people allow it to do so within its own natural rhythm. Cool, so you see we're kind of opening up a little bit more here at Buttonbush. And there's a bunch of different plants that are growing out there. We do have some swamp rose mallow out there. There's some button bushes, which are some of the taller ones that are a darker green popping out of that lighter green, and that's where the swamp gets its name, Buttonbush, because they make these big white fuzzy type buttons as they mature throughout the year. And I don't know if you could hear that in the background.
I definitely hear it.
We can listen for a second. So besides that beautiful wind song, we did hear a bullfrog, which is one of our largest native frogs here in North America. And we also heard the green frog, which was that banjo-y rubber band sound. And so those are two of our true frogs that are most often heard here at Buttonbush. We can also hear spring peepers during the spring and early fall, as well as the gray tree frog, Hyla versicolor, which was reintroduced to the Greenbelt through parks in the late 90s. And since their reintroduction here at Buttonbush, have actually moved as far north on the island as Port Richmond. So an exciting success story and part of our conservation legacy here at the Greenbelt.
And Chris, it's really amazing. I'm finding it really amazing because we were out here just the other night doing Frog Watch USA and recording the frog song data. And so to hear the bullfrogs and the green frogs and the tree frogs that night in the darkness, it was such an interesting experience right here at Buttonbush. And now to hear and experience these swamp residents during the day with the chorus of the wind and everything else around us. It's just a totally different and really awesome experience.
Cool. So as we look up ahead, there is a hiker coming down the trail, and there's a hiker behind us. So, as showing good etiquette, leave no trace, and being considerate of other visitors, Angel and I are going to step off of the trail and allow them to pass us.
How you doing, guys?
Hi.
How's it going?
Good.
So that every visitor can be comfortable and have access to our park. So while we're kind of off to the trail waiting for the other hiker to come by, another reason why this is one of my just favorite spots on the island is that sections of Bucks Hollow here in the Greenbelt are actually some of the most isolated locations here in New York City. So when people talk about taking trips up to the Catskills and Adirondacks to really get isolated and get in the outdoors, this is a really great location to do that. Besides that, and besides just the ecology, the human history as well. So if you're looking down this trail, and you can see it has a very like old school look to it. You can almost imagine a horse riding down here. And Bucks Hollow is actually part of an escape route during the Revolutionary War. So individuals who were fighting against the British actually used Bucks Hollow to get between Richmond Town and the Kilvan Cull in order to escape. And these were mostly revolutionary spies of the time that were using this area. So you can imagine there was probably some trails that looked really similar to this as they were moving through here, eluding the British.
So we're going to stop here again and kind of talk a little bit more about what Chris was mentioning about that tree blowdown earlier, and how you might look down and see lots of trees that are old or completely dead, so dead that you can see right through them. And you might think that they're not really important to our ecosystems anymore, but they really, really are. And this one here, that actually the left side's completely dead, but the right side isn't magically, even though there are holes in the tree. This one has lots of evidence of woodpecker activity, and that would happen especially in a dead tree because we have lots of insects that are helping to decompose that tree and eat it up. So that's exactly the food source that those woodpeckers are looking for. So again, something that looks totally dead actually has so much value in our ecosystems and our natural spaces. And you'll see that all over the riparian zone if you are looking for it.
Right, and there's some dead trees that are out in that swamp that probably existed there prior to the swamp being a part of that. But when we talk about land management and the idea of conservation and that habitat, in recent years we've seen a lot of pileated woodpeckers return to the greenbelt, and so by leaving those big snags and dead trees, we're conserving habitat for species that might have disappeared on the island but now have the opportunity to return. So as we're getting over here, Buttonbush is kind of pushing out. There's a little peninsula here where it kind of bottlenecks that wetlands a little bit, and then it opens up again. So you can just see sort of the shift in the trail where the canopy's thickening again over here. You have a little more shadow. And it's pretty cool and comfortable right now out here on the trail, so this is a great time to come visit. Over here we can see some boulders, and these were all part of a stone wall. So again, at one point the whole Bucks Hollow area was utilized for agriculture, or the attempt at agriculture, and these would be property lines and boundaries. And so as Angel mentioned, you can get up to Hydall Hill, which is the foundation of an old homestead. But as we learned from the history of Hydall Hill, that the soil here on Staten Island is not very good for growing on an agricultural level. There's a lot of clay and just not super rich for things like grapes, which was the Hydall Hill's attempted crop. But you can imagine looking out that a lot of this might have been cleared for agriculture at one point. But again, nature is resilient, and when given time to heal, it can provide some really amazing gifts and return back to its natural state. Awesome. So I think that that's it for today. I'm really excited that you were all able to join us for this Trail of the Month. And as we continue to be resilient ourselves within our own community, we want to invite you to continue to hike on our 35 miles of trails. Continue to visit us on our website, sigreenbelt.org, or on our live streams here on our Facebook page.
And don't forget that next month will be another Trail of the Month walk, and I believe that we might have something really cool in the works for dog owners and dog walkers, because you guys are totally patrons of our park, and we want to see what kind of trails might be really great for bringing your four-legged friends out to the park safely and everybody enjoying their time out here together. So be sure to check in with us every Thursday. We have new virtual content, and we're really excited to share it with you. So thanks so much. Have a great day, guys.